Sunday, and last I checked, Sunday ends with Y. Last I checked, Sunday was a part of the 7-day week, and you know what that means. That means we are getting a real money fantasy football draft underway like we do every single day. Let's go hop into this. And no, this is not a mock draft. This is going to be a real money league. 2 spots left in this draft. I think there were 3 spots whenever we first got in here for anybody wanting to draft with us in the live stream. Y'all know we do this every single night. Make it another draft going after this one so y'all can hop in here with us. But let's see where we are going to be picking from. I have maybe drafted like 10 drafts today. If I'm going to be honest, it's getting to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. How have I done so many drafts today? How have I had the free time? I will say we've just been sitting here editing our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. And if I'm not recording videos and I'm editing a draft guide, I can go ahead. I can hop in some drafts on our second monitor. But here at the 103, I've drafted a ton of teams from the 103 and the 104 today. Like, I feel like at this point, I have a decent idea of what we are going to do. It doesn't look like we have too many members of the flock here that should be making this really tough for us. I think Rio is going to be a part of the flock. He is drafting at the 108. Outside of that, I don't really see anybody else. Of course, we see Basketball Viper here with the red badge, so we can assume that they're going to be a very good drafter, as well as the team at the 112. But the team at the 112 shouldn't really be affecting us at pick 3. So we should be completely fine there. I'm assuming we're going to get Cooper Kupp. It's almost standard after the Baker Mayfield trade that you have Christian McCaffrey going at pick 2. I have started taking Christian McCaffrey at pick 2. At least I did right after that Baker Mayfield trade. But let's see CMC go off the board. And dear God, we have so many freaking people out here in the live chat right now. Thank y'all so much for everybody coming out to the live stream. And of course, you know what I got to ask from you. If you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like on the live stream, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football, even though everybody in the stream is actually already subscribed. And it looks like instead of coming away with Cooper Kupp, we are going to get Christian McCaffrey at pick 3. I think with CMC, of course, this is going to be a player that has a lower floor than a lot of other options in this range. I will be the first person to admit, yes, with Christian McCaffrey, he should come with a higher injury risk compared to other players in this range. Yes, let's admit it. But let's also look at the fact that if CMC were to stay healthy, he is the #1 player in fantasy. And it is that simple. It's not even up for debate. Not even up for debate. Like, let me go ahead and pull up my 2022 fantasy football draft guide. I promise y'all it's almost available. I promise you it's almost available. Yes, everybody who's already pre-ordered it. I told y'all you were going to get it in August. But no, you're probably getting it this week. Like I said, we've been grinding away at this. I have, our editor has, and Zachary Link is designing the draft guide for us. I know a ton of people in the flock know who Zachary is. Oh, a massive thank you for designing this draft guide. But let me go ahead and pull up this chapter on Christian McCaffrey so I can tell you how damn good his 2019 season was. Because, of course, I can sit here and I can tell you, oh, yeah, he has an elite level ceiling, yada, yada, yada. No, if you look at Christian McCaffrey and we look at running backs since the year 2000 to average 28 fantasy points per game. You know who has been able to do that? Running backs since the year 2000 who've been able to average 28 fantasy points per game. We have a couple guys that I'm too young to even remember. We got Marshall Faulk. Of course, I know of Marshall Faulk, but it's not like I can sit here and say I watched the man in his prime. In the year 2000, he goes out there and crushes what CMC did. You had Priest Holmes in 2002. You had Marshall Faulk again in 2001. And you had LaDainian Tomlinson, someone that I can remember, in 2008 with the Los Angeles Chargers. Those are the only running backs that we have seen in that same tier of what we had with Christian McCaffrey in 2019. So I'm going to be fine drafting him here. But interesting to see Leonard Fournette off the board at pick 13. That's going to be the first real surprise of this draft outside of Derrick Henry at pick 4. Okay, so there are some interesting starts to this draft room. This will be exciting. And real quick, if you want to have some excitement in your life, if somehow you are the last person on the face of this planet, legitimately, you have to be the last person on the planet that is not signed up for Underdog Fantasy and is not hopping into these Underdog drafts every single day. Fix your life, have some fun, go to the link in the description, go to the link in the live chat, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy, hop into some real money fantasy football mock drafts, and not mock drafts, real drafts. And when you use promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. So you will be getting paid to play fantasy football, and you'll get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 dynasty rankings, dynasty rookie rankings, dynasty rookie draft guide. You'll be able to hop into drafts with us in the live stream, hop into drafts in the public lobby. It's a ton of fun. But after this, we have Mike Evans going at pick 16. Okay, we have someone ask. Austin says, can you push the pinning trades on Flock 2? Yes. I just got back from a long walk. I figured JN should be around, push those out, but let me pull that up. I will get that going as we stream. I apologize that has that not happened already. Okay, it looks like JN should have already did it. Okay. But Tyreek Hill goes here, pick 18. So Tyreek going a little bit earlier than usual. You have CeeDee Lamb making it all the way to pick 17. That is very rare for CeeDee Lamb here. To be able to start with Austin Eckler and Lamb, you have to be very excited about that. It's a start that has a ton of upside. If you look at the offenses that they're playing in, not only a ton of upside because of that, but at the same time, you are looking at a very unique combination in this tournament. So that's always exciting to say the least. But after Aaron Jones is off the board, I don't even know who we really want here. I guess we're going to have the same exact start that we had in our $500 draft. Let's go ahead. Let's grab Barkley at pick 22. Yeah, this is the same start that I had in our $500 draft. At the end of this one, I'll actually pull up our $500 draft so y'all can give me your opinion on the pick that I need to make next. But Barkley, McCaffrey, obviously a start that has a ridiculous ceiling, but a very low floor. I'll admit, yes, it's going to have a low floor, but how do you have access to a higher ceiling than starting with these two running backs? But Nick Chubb goes directly after us at pick 23. Kolb on the clock. Took Jonathan Taylor at 1. Starting Jonathan Taylor, obviously you're excited because you have probably the best asset in fantasy football with this floor and ceiling combination. But at the same time, it's always awkward at the 2-3 turn here. He's going to go ahead. He's going to take Alvin Kamara. I personally like it. I like leaning in with the risk. In says he's in there this draft. He is 36. Or I'm assuming maybe age. I don't know. I don't know. But let's hope that there's one player that I really want. Higgins off the board. We may have an identical start to what we did in the $500 draft. No, A.J. Brown goes. We're going to try something a little bit different. We're going to try something a little bit unique. I very rarely start with 3 running backs here. But going back to what we were talking about with a unique combination, I truly do think that the combination of CMC, Saquon Barkley, and Javonte Williams really is not going to be that common in these drafts. Now, of course, we are going out on a limb here. We are really hoping that we have some wide receiver value falling to us a little bit later on. And at the 4-5 turn, I usually don't even like taking wide receivers there. Usually the wide receivers you're looking at there are Allen Robinson and DK Metcalf. And 9 times out of 10, I'm passing on them. And instead, I'm taking a quarterback like Lamar, like Mahomes. But it is what it is. We will try to make this work. I think we got the value falling to us. If we take that value, start with that unique combo. At this point, we're probably only drafting 4 running backs in this team, maybe 5 if we wait to grab our next 2 guys super late. Ooh, it's going to be tough. Henry says, go 18 running backs, go bold. I will say if we went 18 running backs, we would have a very unique combination. I don't think there would be a single other team in this contest with 18 running backs. Okay. So Mike Williams, pick 32. Curvad says, if those running back bye weeks don't overlap, can't you just draft 3 RBs? I know that people really want to try to galaxy brain it in this tournament, but if you go ahead and if you just think through this, if you draft, say, only 3 running backs in this tournament thinking, oh, I'll get an extra roster spot. I'll be able to roster Devin Duvernay. Yay, I'll get 11 receivers. I'll get Devin Duvernay as my 11. In reality, if you were to get to week 17 and you only had 3 running backs, those 3 running backs would have to be so damn good that the rest of the field is going to have those same 3 guys or some combination of at least 2 of those guys when you get to week 17. Like, that's why I don't necessarily understand going to that extreme with it. I think you at least need to have another running back. In reality, what is the expected value that you are getting by adding on an 11th wide receiver per se? I don't think you're getting any at all. Now, Justin Herbert goes pick 36. Pretty good for us because obviously I'm not looking at Herbert, and I'm interested to know what this team's doing here with the start of Najee Harris, Leonard Fournette, Herbert, and Deontay Johnson. They reach almost an entire round for Leonard Fournette. Off the top of my head, I believe Leonard Fournette has an ADP of about 21. Justin Herbert usually goes to the 4-5 turn as well, usually near the end of the fourth, usually around pick 45, 46. Whoever took Keenan Allen usually gets Justin Herbert. So I don't know what's going on there. They're an experienced drafter. They have the red badge next to him. But looks a little crazy to start that way, in my opinion. You also have Gabriel Davis going pick 38, Courtland Sutton going pick 39. I know I'm the wet blanket. I know every single live stream I talk about the fact that Gabriel Davis and Courtland Sutton are being overdrafted. But look at who they are going ahead of. You have Gabriel Davis and Courtland Sutton being drafted ahead of Terry McLaurin, Hollywood Brown, Travis Etienne, Jalen Waddle, Cam Akers, Darren Waller, Courtland Sutton, Brees. That is who you are drafting, those two wide receivers. I'm not going to speak anymore on it. We've already talked way too much about it. Daddy Craig coming out says, where are the Dynasty videos? We'll have a Dynasty video coming out tomorrow. But do we really mix this up? I want Waller. We want Waller. Hopefully we get Waller. We may go with the hyper fragile build though. Let's see what happens. Holding the Rock takes Cam Akers. Okay, thank God we are going to go ahead. We're going to be able to get Darren Waller here, pick 46. And we're probably not going to grab another wide receiver here at the beginning of the fifth as well. This is something that I've talked about in depth, but usually the wide receivers in this range, Judy, Allen Robinson, DK Metcalf, I don't see a massive gap between the guys that we're going to have literally just in a few rounds. Whereas at quarterback, the difference between Mahomes and the quarterback that we are going to be looking at the end. Okay, Mahomes goes. And never mind. We are not going to get the option to go ahead and to draft Patrick Mahomes, even though I would have been very excited about it. And let's try to pivot. Kolb on the clock. They start Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, and T. Higgins. Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, and T. Higgins. And I'll say, I actually drafted Michael Pittman Jr. in one of the drafts this morning. Y'all know I usually talk about Michael Pittman Jr. being an overvalued player. But I had Michael Pittman Jr. fall to us at like pick 47. I had him fall to the 4-5 turn, which of course never happens. So I'm going to be happy to take him there. I actually got a share, and that team looked really good. I should have posted a screenshot to locals or at least on our Discord chat or something. Because maybe I'll go through and I'll grab that team just to flex on our Discord chat and send that out there. But Miklo on the clock, they're the team that sniped us from Mahomes. They go Breece Hall. I'm trying to not do it, guys. I'm trying my best. But we may do it anyway. We may do it anyway. We just may try to come up with a very unique combination of players that nobody else in this tournament is going to have, that has access, at least a path to a ceiling. So let's go start with a very ugly build. Now, let me say, if this was just a regular 12-team fantasy football draft, there's no way in hell I would ever do this. There's no way in hell you take George Kittle, your second tight end here, over your wide receiver one. There would be nothing dumber. Nothing dumber. Now, this is still probably pretty dumb, but the reasoning behind this is, if y'all don't know what this puppy draft is, it's a $5 buy-in where first place gets paid in this 12-team league, second place gets paid in this 12-team league, and a small percentage of every single league pot across the entire tournament, which has like 100,000 teams, is set aside for the massive fantasy football tournament at the very end of the season. And because of that dynamic, I do want to have access to an elite level ceiling with a combination of players that not too many people are going to have. So we are going to try it out. We are going to go with a hyper fragile running back build and a bully tight end strategy to start us off. This is going to be tough to recover from, but if we can do it, oh dear God. And yes, I do like Kittle over these wide receivers in terms of if we look at the receivers that are going to be available to us at pick 70, at pick 75, we are going to have Devonta Smith. We are going to have DeAndre Hopkins. We are going to have Drake London. We are going to have wide receivers in that range that we like, that I am fine with. Like the gap between, say, a Braden Cooks and a Devonta Smith, a Brandon Cooks and a DeAndre Hopkins, for me, that gap is almost non-existent. Now, I will admit, y'all can see me. I'm sweating with these lights on me that now that you have this many wide receivers going off the board in round 5. It's getting nerve-wracking in here. Now, what we need to hope for. For the love of God, get Dalton Schultz off the board. Thank you. He goes at the 601. He goes pick 61. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. B, we want some of these running backs off, but we're going to the hyper-fragile build. Maybe we grab our 4th running back here, and then we're done at running backs for the rest of the draft. We will figure this out. Okay. So let's move this down. Elijah Mitchell goes pick 62. Russell Gage, 63. Russell Gage over Chris Godwin will never sit right with me. Not in a playoff tournament where weeks 15, 16, and 17 determine so damn much with the expected value that you have in this contest. Like, what are you doing taking Russell Gage pick 63? Legitimately. Yes, maybe you have a higher advance rate than average going Russell Gage over Chris Godwin, but you were severely capping your ceiling with that draft pick. Okay. Now, after this, hopefully we also get Burrow off the board. Obviously, we have no interest in Burrow. And this is a trend that I've seen today. I've seen J.K. Dobbins falling like this. Now, please, I checked RotoWorld to see if there was anything I was missing. I tried to find some report, and I couldn't see anything on J.K. Dobbins. Did something come out about J.K. Dobbins today that I don't know of? I've seen, this isn't the first time I've seen Dobbins fall this far. J.K. Dobbins goes to pick 68, holding the rock on the clock. What have they done so far? They went Derrick Henry pick 4, Cam Akers, Deebo Samuel, Keenan Allen. They go Chris Godwin. Oh, that makes me mad. We're going to go ahead. We're going to draft Amari Cooper as our wide receiver 1. If we would have had Chris Godwin, this team would have been beautiful. This team would have been beautiful. Now we have to hope the T. Higgins team goes ahead and drafts Joe Burrow. Definitely a possibility because that T. Higgins team does not have a quarterback just yet. We have to probably hope that you also get A.J. Dillon off the board as well. A.J. Dillon currently the top player available according to ADP. And we have 4 picks to go. So hopefully we get out of those guys. And if Dobbins were to fall or Chris Godwin were to fall, that was going to be our pick over Amari. And I will also say, the gap between Amari Cooper and Brandon Cooks for me, going back to our George Kittle selection, no, the gap's not that large at all. I think they're both going to be wide receivers that dominate their target share in piss-poor offenses. They're both going to be playing in very bad offenses. Amari Cooper in Cleveland and Brandon Cooks in Houston. Now, the one difference between these two guys is at least there's the outside chance, at least there's the off chance possibility that Amari Cooper has elite level quarterback play in weeks 15, 16, and 17. Now, it's entirely possible that, yes, Watson misses the entire season, but it's also entirely possible that he does not miss the very, very end of the year, which would help out Amari Cooper. And Brandon Cooks doesn't even have that in his range of outcomes. I would say that they are comparable to me, and that's why I'm not jumping up and down to grab a wide receiver there in round 5. Okay, so we're going to go get Drake London, in my opinion, an elite level wide receiver prospect here at pick 75. Happy to see Dylan go right before us. So with this team, it's brutal so far, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to try to find a way to save this. I think that hopefully we can do it. I will definitely be needing your opinion later on in this draft whenever we're stuck trying to choose between wide receivers. But so far at running back, we have Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, and Javonte Williams. At tight end, we have Darren Waller, George Kittle. At wide receiver, we have Amari Cooper and Drake London. Now, of course, we are only going to have to draft 2 tight ends. We're probably only going to have to draft 4 running backs. So this is going to be a team that we could potentially get up to, if my simple math is correct, we can get up to what? 10 receivers? We get to 10 wide receivers on this team. So it would be very interesting in a best ball format. We will figure it out. Thank God we have some running backs going off the board here. We have Antonio Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire off the board. And I need to know your opinion of the guys in this range, because right now I am on the clock in our $500 draft. And of course, in our $500 draft, where it's a much smaller player pool. It's not a $100,000 draft tournament where you're sitting there trying to come up with some unique things to do and really take all the risk you can. In our $500 draft, it is a much smaller player pool, so it doesn't incentivize you to go as unique as this or nearly as risky as this. But we are currently on the clock, and we have about 2 to 3 hours left on the clock at pick 76. I think it's 76. It's like the 704. But yeah, that's going to be 76. And I will need your opinion on who to go with. I think I'm leaning Devonta Smith. We have A.J. Brown on that team as well, but we'll get to that at the end of this draft. Okay, so we have Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott off the board. We definitely need quarterbacks with this roster as well. Now the issue is, what quarterbacks can we actually go out of our way and target? We don't really have any top-level pass catchers at this point. We have George Kittle, but there's no way in hell we had Trey Lance making it back to us at the end of the 8th, maybe at the very beginning of the offseason, but too many people are on Trey Lance now. Too many people are too smart for us to continue to just soak up as much value as possible with Trey Lance. So it is what it is. We are sadly going to have to kind of just stay unique, stay creative. Caesar says, draft the GOAT, draft Tom Brady. My man, Brady's already off the board, pick 83. And I will say, with Tom Brady, with the negative news over the past month of Chris Godwin's injury timeline, with Rob Gronkowski retiring, I would assume Tom Brady's ADP would be hit more. I would assume that Brady would fall a little bit closer to like the Aaron Rodgers, the Derek Carr tier, where that hasn't happened at all. Tom Brady is still standing strong with where he was being drafted previously. So I'm no longer drafting Brady nearly as often. Like, I definitely prefer Dak. I definitely prefer Lance. And while, yes, they go ahead of Brady in this draft in particular, like I said, I've gotten like 10 drafts this morning. I'm in these drafts every single day. 9 times out of 10, that's not actually happening. Okay, so if Hawkinson ends up falling to us, we can safely say that my selection of Kittle was straight up trash. We can safely say that if Hawkinson falls. We can probably say it regardless, but we can safely say it if Hawkinson's available at pick 94. He goes 92. Okay, so that's going to make me feel a little bit better about myself. This team's on the clock that ended up taking Trey Lance in the last round. They have Henry at running back. We are going to go ahead. We are going to get Treylon Burks. Looks like we are betting on some rookie wide receiver breakouts right away. Hopefully we get them. I am 100% buying the dip on Treylon Burks now that he goes to the 8-9 turn. I talk about this every offseason, but there are certain things that we need to be looking at with coach speak during training camp, and that is going to be running back depth charts, usage, but rookie reports in terms of the coaching staff coming out and telling us Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is playing over Treylon Burks. That means nothing. That is literally what every coaching staff that has ever had a job has done. They have 100% of the time, every single one, come out and said, oh yeah, you know, the veteran that I've known that has put in work for this team for years, it's his starting job. The rookie who just got drafted round 1, we are not just going to hand it to him. He is behind Nick Westbrook-Ikhine on the depth chart. It's a tale as old as time. Why is he falling this far down, and why are we now getting Lockett here at pick 99? Let me go ahead and let me pull up my chapter that we have on Tyler Lockett in our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Like I said, no, this is not currently available. It will be available this week, though, and I could not be more proud of this draft guide. I think the information we put into it is next level. The most valuable information you can find for your 2022 fantasy football drafts. Not going to be covering really best ball in this draft guide. It's not going to be a draft guide for Underdog. It's going to be a draft guide for your regular fantasy football leagues. But regardless, let me pull up the Tyler Lockett chapter. And here with Tyler Lockett, I think there are some narratives that people are getting wrong this upcoming season. because I am sure that everybody has heard the sentiment saying, oh, well, yeah, we can still draft DK Metcalf because DK Metcalf, he's an elite level wide receiver. DK Metcalf's an elite level talent. I mean, yes, Russell Wilson benefited DK Metcalf over the past few years, but in terms of Tyler Lockett, the only reason Tyler Lockett was successful in Seattle, the only reason he found success was because he was Russell Wilson's buddy. If it wasn't for Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett's not an NFL starting wide receiver. I mean, at least that's the narrative that I've heard. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe I'm making this up. But if I dive into the numbers here, it literally looks like just a narrative. Tyler Lockett posted his most efficient season in the NFL last year. Tyler Lockett last year had 2.5 yards per route run. You know the wide receivers that had more yards per route run than Tyler Lockett last season when Seattle was horrible? Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Davante Adams, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp. And I know, yes, Russell Wilson played the majority of the games last year, but we did have Geno Smith starting for some time. And with Geno Smith, who may be the starting quarterback in Seattle this upcoming season, the narrative is, oh, Russell Wilson can overcome it. I'm sorry, DK Metcalf can overcome it, but Tyler Lockett can't. Well, what if I were to tell you that in the games that Geno Smith started, according to our draft guide here, DK Metcalf had 18 targets in those games, and Tyler Lockett had 23. Tyler Lockett out-targeted DK Metcalf in games where Geno Smith started last year. And Lockett was an elite level wide receiver from a yards per route run standpoint. Now, of course, I am not drafting Tyler Lockett over DK Metcalf this upcoming season. I do believe DK Metcalf is the wide receiver one. But in terms of Tyler Lockett, who has averaged a top 24 wide receiver finish falling this far in best ball drafts in particular, I'm going to be fine buying the dip on Lockett, especially when we are desperate for some wide receiver production here. And we're getting him as our wide receiver 4. And we didn't take our first wide receiver until what, the 6th round in this draft? I think so. Let me see. Yeah, we didn't take our first wide receiver until the 6th round. So that is going to be pretty damn crazy. But it looks like some positions that we would need in quarterback, they're off the board. Rodgers, Carr, Fields, Kirk Cousins. We don't have an option for any of those guys. The guy that I was wanting, we would have wanted Derek Carr because we did have Darren Waller on this team. But it is what it is. We are going to go ahead. We are probably going to come away with the receiver. Y'all know I really like James Cook. We grabbed James Cook. I think we're done at running back. But let's see what ends up falling to us. We'll stay flexible based on what's available. Okay, James Cook off the board. It is what it is. We're going to get 2 very good wide receivers. Now, with Garrett Wilson, I don't necessarily know if we can go with Garrett Wilson because the issue is, if you look at Zach Wilson and his preferences, it looks like Zach Wilson is going to prefer his options to be a little bit older. It looks like Zach Wilson definitely looks like going for the more mature options, and the young buck in Garrett Wilson may not necessarily be to his exact taste. I'd imagine that Zach Wilson prefers maybe like the older Corey Davis. So Wilson has to go down. Maybe I'm wrong. But now we are 3 picks away. There's one guy that I'm dying to get here. Robert Woods goes. Oh, Robert Woods would have saved this draft. Robert Woods would have killed this draft for us, added up on that Treylon Burks pick. We would have been able to take Ryan Tannehill a little bit later on. So here, I think we go ahead. Do we just grab another rookie? It seems crazy. I just really like Christian Watson. At some point, we need to stop drafting rookies. Look at this freaking team. CMC, Barkley, Javonte at running back, Waller, Kittle at tight end, wide receiver, Amari, London, Burks, Lockett, Christian Watson. 3 rookie wide receivers so far through our group of 5. Of course, this team does have an elite level ceiling down the stretch in weeks 15, 16, and 17. But hell, we're going to need production to get to that playoff tournament as well. We're going to need production at the very beginning of the season. So we will try to find it now. The worst thing we could see is Gallup being added to this team. I really like the Gallup price point in this range that you can get, especially if you get Dak Prescott falling to you at the end of the 8th round. But Gallup would be just no help here. No help at all. We already have the elite level ceiling down the stretch in weeks 15, 16, 17. Thank God Irv Smith Jr. is off the board. We want to see these tight ends continue to go. Brighton asking if there's going to be another way other than signing up for Underdog Fantasy to get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Yes, it's going to be available on flockfantasy.com. It'll be available on flockfantasy.com. A lot of people have already pre-ordered it there, but I'll make the announcement. I'll send out the links and everything when the draft guide's officially out. Should be early this week, but I can't wait for y'all to see this draft guide. It is approximately 1 million times better than it was last year. Last year was our first one we ever put out. This year, I could not be more proud of the effort that went into it. And also, I already said this at the beginning, but Zachary is designing the draft guide for us. It's going to look nice and pretty as well. It's not going to look like I'm going through and submitting a high school research paper like our Dynasty research book did, because literally, whenever I go through and write that stuff, it's just as if I am conducting research and writing a research paper. But here, we have some cool graphics. We have some cool stuff going on. Now, we go Rondale Moore at pick 123. Yeah, I think Gallup is intriguing, but here with Rondale Moore, maybe the way we can talk ourselves into it is, hell, maybe he gets an expanded target share through the first 6 weeks in Arizona. Now, speaking of our draft guide, let me go up and pull up the Rondale Moore chapter. We said this a couple nights ago, but I really like this stat that we have on Rondale Moore. I went through and I looked at his air yards per target and I compared it to other players in the NFL around a similar range. Now, notice that I say other players and I don't say other wide receivers, because there's a reason behind this. If you look at Rondale Moore's air yards per target, which is very similar to what you would have with, say, a ADOT, average depth of target. It's almost the same thing. Here, Rondale Moore had 8 air yards a game. And if we look at players that were right next to him in air yards per target, so essentially average depth of target, how far away from the line of scrimmage are you when you draw your target? Leonard Fournette, Alvin Kamara, Darrell Williams, Austin Eckler, then Rondale Moore, then Kenneth Gainwell, Ty Johnson, and Nyheim Hines. That is the type of player Rondale Moore is. Rondale Moore is more like a running back than he is a receiver. I think Rondale Moore is more like Nyheim Hines than he is DeAndre Hopkins. Now, with that being said, hell, maybe you use that in a positive light, looking at the fact that this team no longer has Chase Edmonds. And if this team doesn't have Edmonds, then all of a sudden, Rondale Moore may get more usage in that fashion. You won't have Hopkins through the first 6 weeks. And Hollywood Brown may take just a little bit of time to get implemented into this offense. So I'll be fine taking Rondale here, because we're also not looking for the elite level ceiling down the stretch. We're looking for production right away with this team. But Jameson Williams goes 134. Williams would have been another player that would have been fun. It would have been exciting to add to this roster, but we just can't. We got to be smart. River asking us to get another puppy draft going after this one. Y'all have absolutely smashed that like button. We have almost 1,200 views in this live. We actually have over 1,200 views in this live stream. If we get 250 likes in the stream, we will fire up another puppy draft after this one. Hugh coming out says, Mason, I used promo code FLOCK last year post-draft. Can I still get your draft guide this year? I'm very sorry, my man. The promo that we have with Underdog Fantasy, when you use promo code FLOCK, get our 2022 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, get a 100% deposit match, get our rankings, Dynasty rankings, everything like that. I am sorry, but it's limited to 1 per account. And the reason for this is it's very simple. When you go and sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, they just automatically send it to everyone. They automatically send it to the email that they sign up with. So that's why it's going to be 1 per new account. I'm very sorry about that. TD Vultures asking if we're going 0 quarterback. Yes, we're going 0 quarterback. It wasn't on purpose, but we just never had any quarterbacks that we could reasonably take. Now, we can go through and recap this draft and maybe try to find out exactly where we went wrong and where we could have potentially fixed this. But hopefully we get Gesicki off the board here. Jamison Crowder off 140. Holding the rock. Let's see if they go Gesicki. They have not taken a tight end. They go Darrell Henderson. We're going to take Jacoby Myers. We're going to get a wide receiver in here that should have a decent target share this upcoming season. I think his targets per game are going to be relatively safe in New England. And we are definitely going to have to take 3 quarterbacks with this team. But the issue is, what quarterbacks do we take What quarterbacks can we take at this point of the draft where, yes, it's best ball. Yes, we can cycle through their scores, but still, how do we find access to upside at the quarterback position? We, I guess, could take Baker. We have Christian McCaffrey. Daniel Jones is long gone. Russell Wilson's long gone. With George Kittle, Trey Lance is long gone. With Darren Waller. We never had a shot at taking Derek Carr. We don't have Rodgers in play. I guess the quarterbacks that we have in play, let's go and start these up. We could go ahead, take Mac Jones. If all else goes wrong, we have Jacoby Myers. We could go Mac Jones. We could go Tannehill. We have Treylon Burks. We don't have anyone in Detroit. We could go Baker. We have Christian McCaffrey. We could go Watson. We have Amari Cooper. We could go Mariota. We have Drake London. These are the quarterbacks we're going to be picking up from. We need 3 of these guys. Now, I don't know if we're picking any of these guys anytime soon. What we're going to definitely do here is we're going to take Devontae Parker. We are getting both the combination of Jacoby Myers and Devontae Parker past their ADP. We still need a quarterback. If we take Devontae Parker here and we end up getting Mac Jones, making it back to us at our next selection, I think we can get that cheap New England Patriots double stack between those two options. Yes, Mac Jones is going to have a limited ceiling, just given the fact that this is a quarterback that's not going to have any rushing upside whatsoever. And on top of it, you are not going to have Bill Belichick letting Mac Jones air the ball out. We know that this is going to be a team that tries to be one of the most run-heavy offenses in the NFL. So taking Devontae Parker and Jacoby Myers there at the turn, I really like that because we are going to get correlation and we are going to potentially set up that stack with one of our quarterbacks a little bit later on. But I think this is a wide receiver room here that is just fine now. We have Amari. Okay. Not trying to sell Amari Cooper as anything more than a top 24 wide receiver. We have access to elite level ceilings at the end of the season with London, Treylon Burks, Christian Watson. We can hopefully find some production at the beginning of the season to let these rookies come on with Tyler Lockett, Rondale Moore, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Parker. Now, if I had to go through and submit a starting lineup and pick which 3 of those wide receivers was going to be productive on a week-to-week basis, it would be impossible. I would have no idea how to do that. But it's best ball. We don't have to figure out which one of them is actually going to be productive. We just have to hope that they randomly spike into our lineup. Zachary coming out says more detail in the ticker at the bottom of the screen. Guys, we said this probably 5 times now in this live stream, but everybody, please go and spam the chat. Say thank you, Zachary, because he is very much improving our draft guide for us. He is going through, designing the entire draft guide, putting hours and 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 hours of work into it for everybody. So please spam the chat. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Zachary. Please do that. Okay, but after we go to Devontae Parker, we have a run on tight ends here. Of course, that helps us. We have Darren Waller and George Kittle already on this team. We want to see these tight ends go off the board. Mac Jones goes pick 156. That sucks for us. It is what it is. I still don't mind having the correlation between those 2 wide receivers, those 2 guys that hopefully see an offense that passes the ball more than expected this upcoming season. Now, that's not necessarily a guarantee. We'll figure that out. But at quarterback from here, it's going to be tough. We still need another running back as well. We only have 3 running backs. We are probably going to grab a 4th. I don't want to say a 5th because we still need to get 3 quarterbacks. So at this point, it looks like we're going to go 3 QBs. We don't have a single one yet. 1 running back and 1 wide receiver. Now, if we have a crazy running back value falling to us, maybe we go 3 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, and a receiver, but most likely that's not going to be the case. Okay. Let's figure this out. And Kenneth Gainwell seems like a pretty crazy value falling. Okay. Do we have anybody with the Jets that we can reasonably take? I guess. Ooh, I have an idea. I have an idea here. Rio on the clock. They only have 1 tight end. Please take Higbee. Or are they on auto? Let's see. Is my screen frozen? Sometimes we have issues on the live stream. Oh, this is going to be tough. Oliver says, how many likes for another draft? 250 likes. We'll fire up another draft after this one. I think my internet is messing up, so let me go ahead and just pull up this draft. Yes, so you have, after Rio, Kenneth Gainwell, Marvin Jones, Gus Edwards. Okay. Perfect. Now we are back up here. Corey Davis goes off the board. We are going to take Robbie Anderson. This will potentially be our last wide receiver. We are definitely going to set ourselves up with taking Baker Mayfield now later on, because now we take Baker Mayfield. We have the double stack between CMC and Robbie. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is exciting. I think we'll be able to figure this out. This team here is also only with one quarterback. Now that one quarterback is Patrick Mahomes, they only have 5 wide receivers. They only have 1 tight end as well. So they actually have a decent amount of holes across their entire roster. And now that we take Robbie there, we're probably not going to grab another receiver. I mean, we have Amari Cooper, Drake London, Treylon Burks, Tyler Lockett, Christian Watson, Rondale Moore, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Parker, Robbie Anderson. I think in a best ball format, especially because consider the fact we probably don't need a flex spot the majority of these weeks coming from receiver. We have both Darren Waller and Kittle. We can assume that maybe they hit our flex for us. Nico Collins goes 168. How many other teams only have one quarterback? Okay. 2 teams only have one quarterback. We just really need to get, if we can get Tannehill and Baker on this team, I'll be very happy. See what this team does. They go Sammy Watkins. We're going to take Tannehill just because he has a higher ADP than any of these other quarterbacks in our queue. So if we pass on Tannehill, I think he's going to be the least likely to make it back for us. I think this Tannehill selection's fine because it does correlate with our Treylon Burks pick at 6. So let's go ahead. Let's get Tannehill. Let's hope that we have 2 of those other quarterbacks making it back. Zach Wilson goes directly after. I believe that was to a team that already had 2 quarterbacks. So that's not good for us. It's not good for us because possibly it's going to make one of those 1 QB teams take Baker Mayfield, which would be brutal. Oh, dear God. Henry says 1 tight end or one of your running backs could be in the flex every single week. Yeah. Possibly. We don't want to rely on that, however. We definitely don't want to rely on that. Okay, so Evan Ingram off the board, 173. We're done at wide receiver, guys. We're definitely done at receiver. We got 2 more quarterbacks and 1 more running back. I know this is going to sound crazy because if you look at this in a regular fantasy football draft, like just a regular 12-team league, this team doesn't look that good. But hell, in a best ball format that is a tournament-style draft, I actually love this team. Maybe I'm going crazy because like I said before we fired this up, I will admit I've done way too many drafts today. I've done 10, 15 drafts today. So maybe I'm losing my mind at this point. Maybe I'm a little delusional. But looking at our running back room, looking at the bully tight end strategy that we have as well, and looking at this massive wide receivers that we were able to accumulate from Amari to London, Burks, Lockett, Watson, Rondale, Jacoby, Devontae Parker, Robbie Anderson. If we get our quarterbacks, I'm very excited about this team. But that's a big if. Of course, it's a $5 buy-in, $75,000 the first. So every draft we enter, we are swinging for the fences. But it's going to be very exciting. Very exciting if this works out. But Chris Evans goes 181. Thank God we get Chris Evans and a couple tight ends off the board here. Thank you for taking these tight ends. We definitely want to see these tight ends get drafted. Chris says, why is Chris Godwin going ahead of DeAndre Hopkins? I'm hearing Godwin could be out until December, and Hopkins is clearly the better wide receiver. My man, where the hell are you hearing that Chris Godwin could be out until December? He tore his ACL in December. Why are you assuming it's a 12-month timetable as if this is 1985? The year's 2022. We got modern medicine. They're able to fix this up. He's able to get out there in 9 months. You should have Godwin and DeAndre Hopkins missing a similar amount of time Recently, Shefty came out and said that, hell, you were not going to have Godwin missing any time and he'd be available by week 1. Now, I'm not buying that, but still, at the same time, oh, dear God, you should not be thinking Chris Godwin is out until December. What the hell? Okay, so Will Fuller off the board. Good for us. Come on, get these receivers off as well. There's one team before us that only has one QB. That's Tinderella. They only have 4 running backs. Maybe they go RB. Their quarterback is Josh Allen, so I guess quarterback doesn't even really matter to them. Hopefully they end up going Goff here. Like, they have Hawkinson. If they have Hawkinson, I'd imagine they go Goff, right? Goff's the quarterback highest ranked quarterback in ADP. Hell yes. We are going to get Baker Mayfield. We are going to get the double stack here with Tannehill, with Robbie Anderson. This is exciting, and I have one other exciting thing to say about this, but I need to wait until our round 17 pick. We need to wait until our round 17 pick before we say it. Holding the rock. Come on, get your guy off the board. Take Hayden Hurst already. You only got one tight end. He goes Julio Jones. We're going to take Baker Mayfield here, pick 190 as our second quarterback. Oh, this quarterback room is dynamic. This quarterback room is electric. We have both Ryan Tannehill and Baker Mayfield. Have you ever seen a quarterback room this good before? A serious question. Like, this is the highest start that I've ever had. Now, I will say, there's a draft that I had this morning where I got Josh Allen pick 36, Patrick Mahomes pick 60. That was maybe comparable to this, at least around the same ballpark. But this is freaking fantastic. Okay. Now, this is the one team we have to worry about taking our quarterback. Oh, God dang. Watson off the board. Watson is what would have saved this team. Watson is what would have made this a fantastic, fantastic team that had the elite level ceiling in weeks 15, 16, and 17. Oh, that is brutal to see Watson go. We had the Amari Cooper stack as well. We're not even going to take Mariota here because we can get Mariota every single time in round 18. We'll go ahead. We'll grab our 4th running back. We'll just take J.D. McKissic. We'll just get J.D. McKissic a running back that can cycle through. We don't necessarily need someone with an elite level ceiling when we have CMC, Barkley, Javonte. But let me go ahead, queue up some third quarterbacks just in case we don't get Mariota, and then we will fire up our next draft. But thank you, of course, for everybody coming out to the live stream. That was almost a beautiful team. Now, Free Me says no way Deshaun Watson plays this year, right? I would say it's unlikely that Watson plays this year, but it is 100% still in the range of outcomes. 100%. And in a tournament draft where it's a $5 buy-in, $75,000 for first, I am drafting every single time I go in and just asking myself, what's the path to the highest ceiling possible? I don't care if I strike out at 99 out of 100 at-bats, as long as that one at-bat, I hit a grand slam, as long as I literally smack it out of the ballpark. So that's why I am going to be taking Watson there whenever we have Amari at that price point, when we need to have access to the elite level quarterback finish, even though a lot of times we will be burning money. But here we are firing up this next draft. This is going to be another puppy draft, of course. Thank you for everybody hanging out with us tonight. I truly do appreciate y'all. And if somehow, some way, you have not heard me say this 1 million times already this offseason. Oh, dear. This is good. Look at this. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 red shields in here with us. We're going to be tested, but good thing we got the 105. Now, if you have not heard me the first 1 million times I've said this, we are drafting on Underdog Fantasy, the #1 place you can draft your 2022 fantasy football teams this year. We do this every single night. I do this all day, every day, because it is the most fun thing you could ever do, is hop into these real money fantasy football drafts. And when you go and sign up for Underdog Fantasy and you use promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You will get our 2022 rankings, our 2022 dynasty rankings, our 2022 dynasty rookie draft guide, yada, yada, yada. Most importantly, you'll have a ton of fun in these drafts, and you'll be able to hop into these drafts on the live stream with us. We have NRG Fantasy Focus out here. I've not seen him out here in a while. We have Derek out here, of course. We have D-Bass, a member of the flock. We have Jay in out here. I think Muggs is a member of the flock as well. Oh my gosh. So we are only going up against like members of the flock and Red Shield experience badges. Danny says he's at the 108 as well. Okay, I knew D-Bass was a part of the flock. I didn't know your name was Danny, my man, but Cameron says he's new to Underdog. What do the shields mean? Essentially, the more drafts you get in, you get shields. If you've been in, God knows, like 300 drafts or something, you get the shield that we have. If you've been in like 500 drafts, you get the red shield. Something along those lines. Maybe I have the number of drafts wrong, but essentially that's what it is. So if you're in a draft room and a bunch of people have shields with them, you probably should be a little scared. But we are at the 105. So even though this is going to be a very tough draft room, the 105 is one of the best spots that you can draft because you have access to one of those top 5 prospects. You're going to get either Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, which is very exciting. I mean, especially if you're looking at the available players that are going to be sitting there in round 2 for you as well. So let's take Jamar Chase, not really think about it. I think that's almost an auto pick. I don't even really have too much Jamar Chase because I'm taking Justin Jefferson over him every single time. And sometimes you actually have the 105 and someone takes Chase before Jefferson and you end up getting Justin Jefferson. So let me pull up exactly what I am looking at. And real quick, I forgot to show y'all my $500 draft board. So we will definitely do that near the end. And in that other draft I just saw on my phone, we did get Marcus Mariota. But let me pull up how many drafts I've had Jamar Chase in versus Justin Jefferson. I am interested. I know y'all probably aren't, but I want to figure this out. Yeah, Jamar Chase I've only had in 5% of drafts compared to Jefferson I've had in about 12%. So maybe we need to start taking Chase a little bit more. But hell, if Taylor, Kupp, CMC, Jefferson are all off the board, I go Chase automatically. And one thing that was crazy is I ended up getting Jamar Chase in a draft this morning at like pick 8. And then I had Joe Mixon falling to us at pick 17. Now, we didn't get Burrow at a value later on, which definitely sucked. But still, it was surprising to start Chase and Mixon. And then we went Kyle Pitts in the 3rd. Okay, so Mixon goes pick 14 here. So we're not going to get that start again. But you're never really expecting to be able to get that start whenever you go Jamar Chase in the 1st. You're never expecting to get Mixon making it back to you. Jayan says it's 500 drafts to get a gray shield and 1,000 drafts to get a red. Oh dear God. 1,000 drafts to get a red. So I'm probably a couple hundred drafts still away to get a red. Probably still got some work to do. But just Brett on the clock. They took Austin Eckler in the 1st. Let's see what they decide to do in the 2nd. They go Barkley. We'll take Deebo. We'll do the exact opposite of what we did in the last draft. Last draft, we punted wide receiver. We ended up just hitting those running backs early. Here, we'll stay flexible. We'll take the value that's available to us. I don't love Deebo Samuel here really at all, but hell, I need to take Deebo Samuel in some of these leagues. Might as well take him here at pick 20. Okay. Adam says, can you go in depth of Saquon Barkley? I think he is a champion pick this year. What are your thoughts? Okay, what I can do for you is I can go ahead and I can pull up our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide chapter on Saquon Barkley. This is literally so nice for me. I'm excited for y'all to get this draft guide, but more importantly, I'm excited for whenever I am making a video now on a player, and it used to take me legitimately, like before I recorded a video, 3 hours to go through and get every statistic that I needed, to go through and just do all the research required for the video. Whereas now, I've already done all that research. I've already done hundreds of hours of research and put it on a draft guide. So if I need to talk about Saquon Barkley in a video, I can just go Control F Saquon Barkley. And to speak on the ceiling that Saquon Barkley has had, if we look at his 2019 season, this was a running back that commanded 72% of his team's carries on a per game basis. He commanded almost 20% of his team's target share. That is elite for wide receivers. That is fantastic for receivers. For a running back to get there is almost unheard of. The reason I say almost unheard of is because there's one other running back that has managed to do that over the past 3 years. That one other running back was indeed, I'm assuming y'all know it, We took him in the last draft. We paired him together in the last draft. We paired him together in our $500 draft. That one other running back was Christian McCaffrey in 2019. That's the type of ceiling that you're going to be looking at with Saquon Barkley from a fantasy football standpoint, is specifically in PPR formats. That year he had almost 130 total yards per game. And with the coaching staff change, with Brian Daboll coming over from the New York Giants, with Daniel Jones hopefully being healthy, this should be a much better offense than it's been in years past. We're going to take Javonte here. Javonte is not someone that I love when he goes to the 2-3 turn, but very similar to how he fell to us in the last draft. I think if he falls 4 picks past his ADP, we almost have to take any player that falls 4 picks past his ADP in the top 25 picks, just because if I don't take him then, I'm just never going to draft him at all. I mean, with Javonte Williams, I can go through and tell you how much I've drafted him, and it hasn't been a lot. Yeah, I've drafted Javonte Williams in 5% of these drafts. So that's definitely underweight on Javonte. I need some more. So if he's going to fall past his ADP when we need a running back, we will go ahead and we'll take him. Okay. So Michael Pittman Jr. goes pick 34. I have noticed Michael Pittman Jr. falling as of late. Have y'all? I mean, not even just on the live stream. Maybe on the live stream, it's a little bit deceiving because guys that I've previously talked about being overvalued, like Michael Pittman Jr. when he goes at the very beginning of the 3rd round, maybe people are like, oh, okay, well, we're on the Flock live stream. I think I can possibly get him a little bit later. Let's pass on him and see if he comes back around to us. But like I already said, I was in a draft this morning that wasn't on the live stream, just in a public lobby. And in that draft, I got Michael Pittman Jr. at like pick 46, 47, and I've seen him consistently fall here to the end of the 3rd. I personally think it's something that probably should have happened. Like if I go over and look at our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with Michael Pittman Jr., Michael Pittman Jr. does have a lot of good characteristics on his profile. He has a lot of things that you look for. I'll be the first person to admit it. I mean, if we go ahead and we pull this up and you look at the yards per route run in Indianapolis this past year, he was by far and away the best wide receiver in Indy. You had Michael Pittman Jr. with 2.1 yards per route run compared to Ashton Dulin at 1.7, T.Y. Hilton at 1.6, Zach Pascal. I've never seen a player this bad. Never. Zach Pascal 0.9 yards per route run. So Michael Pittman Jr. was by far and away the best wide receiver in Indianapolis. He commanded almost 25% of his team's target share this past season. That's elite for a second-year player. You would think, Mason, doesn't that mean you should probably really like Michael Pittman Jr.? The reason I don't is just simply because the passing volume, I think, is going to be severely capped here in Indianapolis. And I don't agree with everybody that Matt Ryan is going to be some massive, massive upgrade compared to Carson Wentz. If you look at Carson Wentz last year, yes, I'm not saying that Carson Wentz is better than Matt Ryan, but Carson Wentz was 13th in the NFL with 7.3 adjusted yards per pass attempt. 37-year-old Matt Ryan, not prime Matt Ryan. Keep in mind, Ben Roethlisberger was a Hall of Fame quarterback. Was he good last year? No, he was trash because he was 39. Matt Ryan's 37. It's not the same player he once was. Matt Ryan, 6.8 adjusted yards per pass attempt, significantly behind Carson Wentz. Now, he was in a much worse situation. Matt Ryan should be better in a much better situation this upcoming season. But Carson Wentz already had this team in top 10 in the NFL in points scored. I don't know if Matt Ryan's going to take this team from being a top 10 team in the NFL in points scored to being a top 5. So I don't necessarily think that there's that much of an upgrade here in Indianapolis. And with the underlying great metrics that you had from Michael Pittman Jr. last year, you're still the wide receiver 28 on a points per game basis, outside the top 24 wide receivers, because this Indianapolis Colts offense runs the ball over and over and over again. So I'm not that likely going to be drafting Michael Pittman Jr. At least I'm not going to be excited about drafting Michael Pittman Jr. this year. Okay. Drew says, that's the problem with the analysis. Matt Ryan is a much better quarterback than Carson Wentz. Okay, that's fair to say, but if you're telling me that, are you projecting Matt Ryan to have this team top 5 in the NFL in points scored this year? Wentz had them top 10. So if they were top 10 in the NFL in points scored last year, how much better are they going to be this year? Genuine question. I really want to know, because I know a lot of people are coming out telling me how good of a quarterback that Matt Ryan is. 37-year-old Matt Ryan, does he move this team? I don't want to do it again. I'm scarred. Does Matt Ryan move this team to being top 5 in points scored this year? That's what I want to know. And yes, we're going to do it again. Yes, I'm going to be stupid. Let's do it again. Let's try to create a unique combination. Let's try to have access to an elite level ceiling in weeks 15, 16, 17, that fantasy football playoff tournament that not many people are going to have access to. The wide receivers in this range, I'm just not that excited about. If we would have had Breece Hall, if we would have had David Montgomery, if we would have had DK Metcalf, if we would have had Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, making it to us at pick 53, I would have gone ahead and I would have passed on Kittle here. Maybe what I should have done is I should have gone with one of those quarterbacks at pick 44, knowing we could have got Kittle making it back to us, but I didn't know that was going to happen. Okay. Okay, so SC says the Indianapolis Colts are going to be top 6 to 8 in points scored. Okay, so I'm just genuinely interested in this because there are a lot of smart drafters on Underdog Fantasy here that are taking Michael Pittman Jr. as a low and wide receiver 1. So I got to figure out what I am missing. So let me look up 2021 NFL leaders in points scored. Because I just want to figure out what I'm missing. I want y'all to help me out here and show me who the Indianapolis Colts are going to jump ahead of. Points per game this past year. The top. Oh, Indianapolis was 8 last year. I apologize. I thought they were 10. They were 8. I should have read our draft guide a little bit closer. But here, the teams that were ahead of Indianapolis in points scored last year. New England by 0.1. So New England tied with them, essentially. The only teams dramatically ahead of them. The Rams, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bucks, and the Cowboys. If Matt Ryan is going to make this Indianapolis Colts offense that much better, if he is that much better of a quarterback than Carson Wentz, please inform me what teams Indianapolis moves ahead of in points scored. I'm genuinely interested because I would say that they fall back. I would say they get worse from where they finished last year, even if Matt Ryan's a better quarterback, because the Indianapolis Colts scored more points than the Bengals last year. They scored more points than the Cardinals last year. They scored more points than the Packers, the Eagles, the Vikings, the 49ers, the Ravens. I think Ravens, with Lamar coming back in, could easily jump the Colts. So, genuinely asking, do you think that this team stops running the ball as frequently with Jonathan Taylor? Or do you think all of a sudden Indianapolis is a better offense than the Rams, Chargers, Chiefs, Bills? That's just what I want to know. So Elijah Moore goes pick 64. Carlos says, so why couldn't they do it again? 100%. I think that they could do it again. I think they could be a top 10 offense this upcoming season again. But Michael Pittman was the wide receiver 28 on a points per game basis last year. You're not drafting Michael Pittman Jr. so he can do what he did last year. You're making a horrible pick. You're drafting him to get a lot better. I think it will get somewhat better. I just don't know if he'll get that much better. Okay, so do we go ahead, take Burrow? We'll take Burrow. All the wide receivers here in this range are about the same for me. We are going to go ahead. We are going to get that stack in with Jamar Chase. It's an interesting team. It's an interesting team. We'll see what we can do at pick 77. Okay, Drew says Colts will not have to lean so hard on Jonathan Taylor. Okay, so you think Jonathan Taylor's just not going to have the same workload. Okay, that's understandable because Jonathan Taylor's arguably the best running back in the NFL at 23 years old. Yeah, if I was a coaching staff and you just had the NFL's leading rusher and he's stepping into his age 23 season, yeah, I probably wouldn't use him either. I'd probably use 37-year-old Matt Ryan. That's probably what I would do. But keep in mind, I'm not an NFL coach. So Amari Cooper, Russell Gage here go at the end of the 6th round. Good to get Dalton Schultz off the board. Of course, when we take these two tight ends early, it is just very, very bad for us. Okay, Adam Thielen goes 74. Jayen has 4 running backs early. Interesting. I did not even notice Jayen do that. Jayen, who did you take Miles Sanders over? You took Miles Sanders over Dalton Schultz? I probably wouldn't have done that if I didn't have a tight end and I had 4 running backs early. Just to go Hawkinson 75. I do not like that, my man. And I'm going to make a reach. I understand that I am 100% reaching here, but there's a reason behind this. If we look at this draft board, the reason that I took Burrow is this team here took Mahomes and Lamar. Whenever you have one of those teams taking those 2 elite level options at the very top, I am afraid that we are going to get quarterback value skewed a little bit later on. We have the combination of Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. So we have the double stack here with this San Francisco 49ers offense. So we are, keep in mind, best ball format. In a regular league, I would never do this. Never do this in a regular league, but it's a best ball tournament structure. So it's going to be definitely a little bit different here. So we have Chase, Deebo Samuel, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Javonte Williams is our running back. Waller, Kittle, bully tight end strategy. And here we're going to go with a little bit of bully quarterback as well. We would not have taken both of these quarterbacks in this range if it was not for the team doubling up on Mahomes and Lamar and me being afraid that we may get boxed out of quarterback value a little bit later on. Trent says, do you like picking up Gage and Hopkins on the same team so you have a better chance at getting Hopkins in the big tournament? Yes, I think that is the acceptable way to draft Russell Gage. I saw a team the other day draft Russell Gage and Chris Godwin on the same roster, and I was like, that's like the best thing ever to do. Because if you're looking at the fact that not many teams in the tournament are going to have Chris Godwin, assuming that he misses the beginning portion of the season, given the fact that, hell, it's going to be hard to overcome those zeros that you are taking. But if you are able to get that elite level production from Russell Gage, you can sneak the Chris Godwin team into the tournament. And then at the same time, you can have that correlation between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers passing offense with Russell Gage and Chris Godwin through that 3-week stretch. I love the idea of playing it that way. So 100%, if you can say pair Gage with one of those wide receivers that will potentially miss the beginning portion of the season and they're going later on in drafts because of so you can try to sneak a Hopkins team, try to sneak a Chris Godwin team into the tournament. I would prefer Godwin because then once you get to the tournament, you have that correlation, but I really like that idea. Okay. Okay. Hunt goes 91. We are going to go ahead, probably take Christian Kirk. Yeah, let's take Kirk. Falls 5 picks, passes ADP. We are going to want to grab some wide receivers here with Kirk. Man's getting paid $72 million, okay? Man's getting paid $72 million. I don't necessarily think he deserves it, but if you're looking at the target competition there in Jacksonville, Christian Kirk's number 1 competition for targets is a running back. The number 1 competition Christian Kirk has for targets is going to be Travis Etienne. So here, I think he is going to be a player that has a high floor. I would question the ceiling that you are going to get from Christian Kirk on a week-to-week standpoint because the inefficiency of Trevor Lawrence in particular, but that's the reason you're getting Christian Kirk here as a wide receiver 4 in fantasy drafts, and he's not going close to being a top 24 option. While yes, his target share is safe to project, at the same time, the overall offensive ceiling is going to be capped due to how horribly inefficient Lawrence was last year, even if we want to blame the majority of the failures on Urban Meyer, which is definitely fair to do, if we're going to be honest. Okay. Our guy Lockett goes, do we go ahead just fire up Skyy Moore? I honestly may not. Let me look at this team dynamic. We'll be fine taking Skyy Moore. It is what it is. I was thinking about Robert Woods. The reason I think Skyy Moore's ADP is a little bit inflated here is because you do have Patrick Mahomes going at the 4 or 5 turn 9 times out of 10. So whenever you have Mahomes going at this turn, you're inherently going to get these teams reaching on Marquez Valdes-Scantling, reaching on Skyy Moore, and driving their ADP up probably a little bit higher than it actually should be. But hell, we can still confidently say that Skyy Moore has an elite level ceiling this year. Like, let me go through and pull up Skyy Moore's chapter in our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, because not only is Tyreek Hill gone, because everybody obviously remembers Tyreek Hill is gone from Kansas City. So that is going to open up opportunity here in Kansas City for Marquez Valdes-Scantling, for Juju Smith-Schuster, and for Skyy Moore. But on top of Tyreek Hill being gone, you have Demarcus Robinson, not just Demarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle. So you have Demarcus Robinson, Tyreek Hill, Byron Pringle. You have the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, and wide receiver 3 all gone this season. That is a combined 317 targets, 2,500 receiving yards, and 19 receiving touchdowns out of this Kansas City Chiefs offense, according to our draft guide. Hopefully the numbers are right, but that is a ridiculous amount of production. Now, of course, vacated targets aren't always 1-for-1 with new wide receivers. Tyreek Hill was very talented and able to create production in that offense. It's not just because of Patrick Mahomes there, but still, those numbers are very telling. It is an extreme amount of volume available. Okay, so Kenneth Walker goes here, pick 109. Kenneth Walker is also a running back that has been falling an extreme amount. Where did Rashad Penny go? Okay, I guess Rashad Penny's also falling. Usually Rashad Penny's going a little bit before here as well, unless Penny is already off the board and I didn't see him go extra early. But Rashad Penny has been definitely a big-time riser, and you've had Walker as a big-time faller. And we have people in the chat asking us, why did we not take Tyler Boyd? Because I am an idiot, because I am live streaming and trying to do 10 things at once. Tyler Boyd should have been our selection over Skyy Moore. 100% good call. That's my mistake. Something we should not have made, and hopefully we don't make it again. People are saying Penny over Walker in the chat. I would agree. I would say Penny probably has the higher advance rate between the two players, but I think Penny is a long shot to still have the starting role in Week 15. And everybody wants to talk about Week 17 correlation, and that's the only thing that matters, and yada, 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 yada. Why are we worrying about Week 17 correlation if you're going to be taking a player that may not even have a starting job in Week 15? Okay. But after this, I'm not a big-time fan of taking Rhamondre. Honestly, probably pass on him here. Cole Kmet off the board. Let's look at this. Let's look at the teams that are between us. Okay, so a 6 wide receiver team, 4 wide receivers, 4 wide receivers, 5 wide receivers. I guess we'll take Rhamondre Stevenson. I'm not a massive fan of Stevenson. I would like to convince myself to go with a wide receiver here, but my issue is this team only has Cordell Patterson at running back. Now, I mean, if I was a drafter, now, of course, I'm an idiot, but if I was a drafter and Cordell Patterson was my only running back, here, instead of taking Rondale Moore, I probably would focus in on maybe, just maybe, grabbing 2 running backs here at the 10-11 turn. So that's what I was expecting this team to take, who took Rondale Moore to do. Of course, I was wrong. I can't read minds, but thought we were going to be able to get someone like Patrick making it back to us at pick 125, and we wouldn't have had those running backs. But hell, it is what it is. We needed running backs in our own right. We only had Javonte Williams. Okay, so let's slide this down. Corvette says Penny will be hurt by week 2. My man, I would not be surprised if Penny is hurt before then. As someone who's drafted Rashad Penny almost every single year since he came in to the NFL, NRG Fantasy Focus says, I'm very happy you passed on Tyler Boyd. Definitely great value into the 9th. 100%, my man. I am very jealous that you got him, especially when I have the Burrow team. And it is very embarrassing that I did not take him. Very embarrassing that I did not take him. Okay, so Frymuth goes pick 121. Uncle Andy says, anyone else getting in on the Terrace Marshall hype? My issue with the Terrace Marshall hype is he has a 0% chance to be the top receiving option in this offense, and a 0% chance to be the second best receiving option in this offense. He is capped to the very most, the very, 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 very most, the third option in the receiving game in a Baker Mayfield-led offense, when you have Christian McCaffrey and DJ Moore as elite level weapons. Personally, I'm not getting too over myself with the Terrace Marshall hype. I'd say if you're playing in a deep dynasty format, he is 100%, a million % worth the roster spot. But beyond that, I think it's hard to get too excited. Chris says, is this a mock draft or an actual draft? This is a real money fantasy football draft. Every draft we do on Underdog Fantasy, I'm assuming you're new here if you're asking this. And if you are new here, I got to let you know something. You are the last person on the planet that is not drafting on Underdog Fantasy. The last person on the planet that is not having fun in real money fantasy football drafts right now. So please go to the link in the description, sign up for Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK when you sign up, and they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So you will get paid to play fantasy football. You'll get my 2022 rankings, our 2022 Dynasty rankings, Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so we have Mike Gesicki, Irv Smith Jr., Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Fields here going in a span of 4 picks. Selfishly, this is very good for us. Whenever we have Burrow and Lance, we have Waller and Kittle. We are wanting these quarterbacks and tight ends off the board. I don't want to say we are wanting these guys off the board. A better word would be we are needing these guys off the board. We are needing running back value, needing wide receiver value, making it back to us. Okay, so Robert Tonyan goes pick 132. Chris says, I do my drafts in real life using the board, and my leagues are on Yahoo. My man, these are best ball leagues. You draft this team a real money draft, and it's no time commitment at all during the season. Go fire up $10 on Underdog Fantasy. Have $10 added to your account, promo code FLOCK. Treat them as mock drafts. Just go get in $3 drafts. Hell, probably win some money by the end of the year and be able to crush your league mates whenever you're in your real in-person draft, because you're the only person actually already with draft experience. Okay, so Rachaad White, Jameson Williams off the board here at the beginning of the 12th. Both players would have been in play for us, especially now that you're getting reports about Giovanni Bernard possibly being let go in Tampa Bay. Is definitely going to make Rachaad White a little bit more appealing. So this team at quarterback, we have Burrow, Lance. Tight end, we have Waller, Kittle. So we have elite level quarterbacks, elite level tight ends. But beyond that, we're not looking good. Receiver, Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel, Christian Kirk, Skyy Moore. Running back, Javonte, Rhamondre, Stevenson, and Ronald Jones. We're probably going to go with 6 running backs and 8 receivers with this build. Chris says, how much is it to do a draft in here with you? So the draft we're doing right now is $5. It's actually a tournament draft, $75,000 for first. First place gets paid in your 12-team draft room. Second place gets paid in your 12-team draft room. But a small percentage of every league pot is set aside for a massive tournament in weeks 15, 16, and 17. And they have private drafts that are just regular 12-team drafts. If you want to get in those, they have 10-team drafts. They go all the way down from $3, and you can get into a $500 draft. I am currently in a $500 draft on Underdog Fantasy. But I would say, of course, do not go fire up a $500 draft on Underdog Fantasy if you've not drafted here before. That would be reckless. I've done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drafts here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Isaiah Spiller, pick 140. We're going to get a piece of an elite level offense. We are going to get touches every single week, and we all have upside for more if the starter were to go down. Isaiah Spiller is a very good passing down running back. I think he could step into the Austin Eckler role, not provide Austin Eckler one-for-one production, but he could still get, say, 6 targets out of the backfield a week. And on top of it, he could easily see 10 to 12 carries a week in the case that you have Eckler going down. Okay, so Van Jefferson, Joshua Palmer, Robbie Anderson, all off the board here at the end of the 12th. KJ Osborne. We still need wide receivers making it back to us. We definitely need receivers. We need running backs. Dotson off the board. These are the players that we are looking at. We can't go quarterback. We can't go tight end. Hunter Henry is an appealing value here, but we just can't take him. It doesn't even matter. Jayen on the clock. See what he does. I wonder if Jayen's done with these 4 RBs. He goes Daniel Jones. Michael Carter off the board. Crap. That sucks for us. Okay, so are we just going to go ahead and take Jalen Tolbert? We're going to get a rookie in here that has access to playing in an elite level offense. Yada, yada, yada. Let's look at the players that are going to be available back to us in the 14th. I think we probably should go ahead. We should probably grab our wide receiver 5 here. We will take Tolbert. He was a mega producer at a very small school in college. No, he is not necessarily a player that we should expect to be an elite level NFL talent, but he's walking into one of the best situations you could ask for in Dallas. With Michael Gallup, I know a lot of people are worried about that Chris Godwin injury. Michael Gallup tore his knee up after Chris Godwin did. Michael Gallup should have a longer road to recovery than Chris Godwin. Obviously, you have Amari Cooper gone. You have Cedric Wilson gone. They bring in James Washington, but I think Jalen Tolbert could be someone that at the beginning of the season, if he impresses, he just gets that role and sticks with that role throughout the course of the entire season. Rick coming out says, hey, Mason, I used your code to sign up for Underdog last year. Is there another way that I can still get your draft guide? Yes, sir. It's going to be available for sale on flockfantasy.com. A lot of people have already pre-ordered it. Don't even bother pre-ordering it. I'll just let y'all know when it's available, probably on Tuesday. Trust me, you'll hear me talk about it in every single video. I'll be blasting y'all links with it. Very excited. And I'll have a special promo code coming out for everybody with that draft guide as well for the month of July. Okay, so Matt Ryan, Jameis Winston go here at the end of the 13th. Good for us. I really wanted Michael Carter Jr. making it to us to pick 149. I really wanted that. Tyrion Davis-Price goes 156. Hopefully we get Lawrence off the board. We just can't take Lawrence. Burrow's someone that I have not drafted really at all. Let me see how many drafts I've taken Burrow in. I don't look at Burrow as a quarterback that has access to the same ceiling as like Jalen Hurts. I have Joe Burrow in 4% of drafts. I'm not that excited really to ever draft Burrow. I don't like this team. As crazy as it sounds, I like our last team we drafted more than this one. Okay, so Marvin Jones off the board 160. Herbert off the board 161. So like I said, we're going to get 2 more running backs. We're going to get 3 more wide receivers. Tyler Higbee goes off the board 162. And with these wide receivers, yeah, we're not going to be that deep. But keep in mind, we have Waller and Kittle. One of those guys could hit our flex spot on a week-to-week basis. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get Kenneth Gainwell. This is going to be someone that had almost every single high-value touch in this Philadelphia Eagles offense this past season. Yeah, he's not going to get every touch out of the backfield. He's not going to get the carries between the 20s. But still, in terms of the targets out of the backfield, as well as the usage in the red zone, we have seen Kenneth Gainwell be able to command both of those, which are the most important touches in any NFL offense. And you have no Jordan Howard. You have Boston Scott, another year older. So it looks like Kenneth Gainwell should be in a committee with Miles Sanders this upcoming season. And if an injury were to occur to Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell looks like he has a lot of upside. Derek says, Alexander Mattison, my most owned player, 172 out of 700. Oh my gosh, my man. I'm jealous. I need to get my Alexander Mattison ownership up. I only have Alexander Mattison in 12% of leagues, which 12% of leagues is still pretty damn good. I mean, if you ask me, but I definitely need to get up on your level. I need to be a lot more aggressive with Alexander Mattison because he is a player that, say Dalvin Cook tears his ACL before the season starts. I want to ask all this. I'll pull up Alexander Mattison's chapter in our fantasy football draft guide. But before I read y'all his stats throughout his entire career in games where you have not had Dalvin Cook, please go to the live chat and tell me where you would be willing to draft Alexander Mattison tomorrow if Dalvin Cook, we get a report, hope it doesn't happen, but just imagine if it did. I really hope it doesn't happen, but if it did, in this crazy world we live in, where would you draft Alexander Mattison if Dalvin Cook tore his ACL, he was out for the year? Genuinely interested in knowing this. Okay, let me see what y'all are saying. Round 2, early round 2. Derek says round 2. I honestly would say that Alexander Mattison would almost need to be drafted where Dalvin Cook's being drafted now. And I know that sounds crazy. I understand it. But please hear me out on this one. Because in games where Dalvin Cook plays, he does have his workload just leached off ever so slightly. 10%, 15% goes in the direction of Alexander Mattison. And in games that Dalvin Cook has missed over the past few years, you've actually had Alexander Mattison commanding a larger workload than Dalvin Cook himself. And the reason for this is there's no other running back in Minnesota to leech work off Alexander Mattison when he's the starter. There's only 2 guys there. So it's crazy to say, but I would say Alexander Mattison, assuming they don't bring anybody else in, should be going at the 1-2 turn. if I look at my draft guide, and I'm just saying this hypothetical world, of course, but looking at this draft guide, we have 6 games for Alexander Mattison that he has played with no Dalvin Cook. And in those 6 games, you've had over 20 carries a game, over 20 points per game, and 4.5 targets for Alexander Mattison. Now, of course, it's a small sample, and I am exaggerating, say he should be drafted where Dalvin Cook is. That's an exaggeration. But I still think at the latest, it should be early second round. That's the type of upside I do think that Alexander Mattison has. And if I'm going to be, I don't want to say unfair, but if I'm going to be using this to try to sell you on Alexander Mattison, looking at my draft guide, now this happened before Mattison got there, but remember, Dalvin Cook did tear his ACL his rookie season. But including that, Dalvin Cook, since he came into the NFL, has on average missed 5 games. On average, missed 5 games a season. Now, yes, like I said, that's a little misleading because he missed the entire year, his rookie year. Or I believe he actually played probably 4 games. If memory serves correct, in 2017, he played 4 games. But he missed a large chunk of the season with the torn ACL. But, you know, Dalvin Cook, the most games he's ever played in a year has been 14. It should be safe to project Alexander Mattison to get a couple starts this upcoming season. And at this point, the only thing we can draft is wide receivers. We have 3 wide receivers we are going to be drafting here in the final 3 rounds. This team was not good. I don't want to sugarcoat it. This team was not good. I know who we are taking here at 188 if we get a chance. What's nice is, looks like these teams here are probably just done drafting wide receiver. What the hell? This team that has the red shield just drafted one of the worst teams I've ever seen. This team has a red shield. That means they've done over 1,000 drafts on Underdog Fantasy. They've done over 1,000 drafts on Underdog Fantasy. And just say they only do the $5 drafts. They only do the $5 drafts, which they probably don't just do the $5 drafts if they've gotten in 1,000 drafts on Underdog Fantasy. Probably fire up some $25 drafts. Probably fire up a lot of different buy-ins. But they've at least spent $5K. At least. They have Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Dillon, Kareem Hunt, Dameon Pierce, Tyler Algier, James Robinson, and Raheem Mostert at running back. Wide receiver, Sammy Watkins, Jamison Crowder, Rashad Bateman, Jerry Jeudy. They have 4 wide receivers, and their 4 wide receivers are Jerry Jeudy, Rashad Bateman, Jamison Crowder, and Sammy Watkins. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I am the fish at the table. Derek says it also does count the weekly drafts. That is fair. That is fair. But, oh dear God. As I just naturally see a shield and I'm like, oh God, we should be scared. We should be worried. John says, do you have any draft strategy for an 8-man draft? Grab an elite level tight end. That would be my strategy. Grab an elite level tight end and do not worry too much about receivers. Okay. So, like I said, who did we take at wide receiver last time? We took Rondale. Okay. If we took Rondale, I would feel uncomfortable taking David Bell here, given the fact that with David Bell, he would be our 4th rookie on this build. So I guess we just take Kendrick Bourne. There's no correlation we can grab with our wide receiver picks. We only have 1 more round in this draft, so I probably am going to cut it here. But, of course, thank you so much for being a part of the flock, supporting the channel. I really hope y'all did enjoy this live stream. And one thing I have to get to y'all before we cut the stream is I've done a very bad job. We've had people in our fantasy football group chat telling me I need to go ahead and send y'all this link. Or we have a group chat with like 7,000 people in it. If you don't want to join, I don't give a damn. It's completely free. You don't need an email. You don't need a credit card. You click the link. You choose a nickname. You type whatever nickname you want to be. And then you're in a group chat with like 7,000 people. You can turn off notifications. I don't care. But I will send out that link in the live chat right now if anybody wants to join that free group chat. And for everybody saying Kit Kat Kid wants another draft, don't you worry. We'll get in a draft tomorrow. We will get in a draft the next day. The next day, 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 all the way until the season starts. But of course, thank y'all so much for being a part of the Flock Sporting channel. I do truly appreciate y'all. I hope y'all have a great night, and I hope we get to see you with the video tomorrow.